Welcome to Challenges and Change right here on Halifax Harbor. Shortly to be premiered on stage is a play entitled Crippled. You may feel the title is provocative, and it is meant to be. When we come back, we'll meet the playwright and actor.
Athletes and artists, champions and heroes. We talk challenges and change with Craig Oliver.
With me is actor, playwright, Paul David Power. Also, I always should add, Newfoundlander. Hey, Paul.
Hi.
So if you're comfortable talking about it, and I know you are, tell me about your disability, what it is, when it hit you, and how it impacted you.
Well, I was born with my disability, as we call it these days. It's hard to put a label on my disability. It's a combination of a lot of things that happened while being developed in the womb and at birth. So my legs didn't develop correctly. So my legs are shorter than the rest of my body. And the bones and muscles are a bit weaker. So I have to wear leg braces and use crutches for extra support.
So you don't need to use a wheelchair?
No, not usually. I've had many surgeries growing up, which left me in a wheelchair. And interestingly, I just broke my leg last winter and was in a wheelchair for about 7 months. So I've lived that experience. Yeah. Luckily, not permanently.
Well, how did this disability affect you growing up, in particular your relationship with your peers? You weren't out able to play with all the kids. Did that have an impact on you of any kind?
Definitely. I think I noticed the impact more when I became an adult. When I grew up, which was in the late 70s, and that it was kind of unusual for someone with my type of situation to go to a regular school or that, and I did. I went to a regular school and was surrounded by able-bodied classmates, and I attribute to my parents for that. They were adamant that I would live a normal childhood. So I found myself engaging in a lot of those regular childhood activities, I guess on my level, which I guess would sometimes impact that I would get frustrated that I physically could not do everything that my peers could do around me. So I always describe it that I sort of grew up in an able-bodied society, and I seemed more like, to me, the only one rather than a unique group. I think that fed into growing up in my teens when you're so I guess into your looks or more self-conscious about that, and I didn't want to be classified in any type of disabled group because I grew up in this able-bodied society. Now as an adult, I realize now while that was great, and I think it sort of fed into my attitude of I can do anything that I want. I think it also hurt me in that I wasn't exposed to other people like myself. I've gotten the opportunity in my 20s and 30s to do a lot of, which has helped that.
So some people grow up sort of feeling rejected, angry, and feel like outsiders. But in your case, it looks like to the degree they could, they didn't treat you like an outsider. They let you in.
I would say yes. You got all the typical things I think that any kid goes through. You're always made fun of something, right? I don't remember any time being told, no, you can't do that, unless it was literally physically something I could not possibly do. I think that would make me frustrated as a kid, though, that I could not do that. I think that led into the psyche of blaming it on the disability, and all those things we go through of like, why me? Why do I have a disability? I can water ski, that sort of things.
Yeah, I guess it is not possible to grow up with a disability and expect that you're just going to be like everybody else. There's an argument about that.
Yeah, and in this day and age, it's sort of more embraced, or at least in my age, I've learned to embrace it more. I can say that was always the situation, especially, being the age I am in my 40s, and when you think back like to the 70s and 80s, it wasn't embraced, and there was always a segregation of, the disabled group and the normal school, or even types of field trips you'd see kids or whatever on. It's like, the special group and the other kids. So I think it's only the past like 15, 20 years we've sort of gotten into some kind of segregation where it's a bit of a norm.
Right.
I even hate using that word segregation, but I think we're still at that point that it's okay to use that word.
So, what was it that drew you into the arts, communication? I know you studied at Ryerson and did a 3-year degree there. What took you there?
I think my imagination. As a person with a disability and growing up, I think that was developed a lot in my mind. As much as I say I took part in school activities and all that, there were a lot of physical things I couldn't do, which would lead you to your own defenses to entertain yourself. So I think I developed a really good imagination for creating, as well as a love for the arts and movies and TV and all that stuff I grew up with. And it didn't interest me just to be a passive viewer. I like to figure out how things are made, and how stories are told. And so I did an English theater degree at Memorial University in Newfoundland, and I graduated with an English degree in English theater, and I thought, well, what can I do to make a living at that? And besides, recite Shakespeare on a street corner. So it was, okay, I think I'll try journalism at Ryerson. And that turned out to be, discovering a love of creating stories and broadcast media and that sort of stuff. So,
but what took you to the stage, sort of from being on TV or all the other kind of things you could do in the arts? Drama.
I did. I guess it comes from my growing up in regular school and around able-bodied people that I auditioned for my first role when I was still at Memorial University. I think it was a Shakespeare role. And I got a pretty significant role. And it was the norm to me. I just went to an audition like anybody else. And I just finished up a provincial tour there on disability issues in theater and found out that I'm not the norm when it comes to going out and auditioning just for able-bodied roles or normal roles. But I was like anybody else. I wanted to act because, you hear the phrase, I got bit by the acting bug, and was in my first play, and I really enjoyed it, and I got the role, so I figured I had some talent there, and went from there. And it wasn't until the past couple of years I realized that I'm pretty in a unique position of audition.
When you go on stage as a disabled person, is it possible for the audience not to have some sort of change in perspective, some change in perception?
The feedback I've heard is, when I come on stage and it's not anticipated, it's not a disabled play, say it's just a Shakespeare play, no one's anticipating a person on crutches or a person in a wheelchair or whatever that might be. The compliments I've gotten is once audience members see you and you're playing the character believably, that disability is forgotten after maybe the first 3 scenes.
That's good.
Which is really, really good. It's a challenge for me as an actor as well. I mean, you're putting yourself up on stage there, and nobody asked you to do this. You do it to yourself, but you put yourself up on stage. You're a spotlight. Of course, some of those self-conscious things I have about a disability and my physicality come to light, in addition to just being nervous about remembering my lines in that.
I'm going to come back to this, Paul. We're going to take a break now, and come back and we'll talk about the play you've written, which is going to be performed for the first time soon.
Definitely.
Just take a break here.
Coming up after the break.
Some of them call it crip arts.
Right.
And I think it's more about, taking back that name and owning it.
More from Challenges and Change with Craig Oliver after the break. And now, back to Challenges and Change with Craig Oliver.
And we're back with actor, playwright here in Halifax, Paul Power. Paul, you have written a play, and it's got a very provocative title, as you know, Crippled.
Yes.
Does it worry you about using that title? Because nowadays it's kind of politically incorrect to call anyone crippled.
It's partly, I guess, why I chose that title, but it has more to do what's in the story. So I'm really thrilled that Crippled is going to be premiering in February in 2018. And I do anticipate maybe some talk back about the title. I would tell anyone to see the play. There's a lot of ways we could be crippled. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be physically. It could be emotionally, mentally. So it sort of encompasses all of that.
Yeah. You know that some people would say it's okay for you to say that as a person who has a disability that you do, but others would say, no, it creates an idea that's not very attractive. Then that is sort of not me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
I think I got the opportunity. The National Arts Center did a great project for a year. It was called The Cycle, and I got to meet with other artists with disabilities and who were deaf across the country to sit down and talk about disability and theater. And there were some terms there that I had never heard about, and there's a real movement in the national theater scene, and some of them call it like crip arts.
Right.
And I think it's more about, taking back that name and owning it. So I see that sort of movement on it. But I think it's up to the artist what they want to use. I still haven't done it. I think came to peace with would I call myself a crip artist. But as a playwright, my play title is appropriate for what the story is. It's basically about this character who has a disability.
This is where I wanted to go next. What is the premise? What is the story?
Right, I'm doing your job.
Anytime, I'm happy to sit here.
No, sir. It's a very personal story. I've been working on it for 2 years, and this is a great example, I think, of what it is to be an artist. Basically still coming to terms with being physically different and having a disability, which as soon as you think you're at peace with it, something happens, somebody spirits at you or something, and it all comes up again.
Mm-hmm.
It's that component of my character. Also, I had a long-term partner, Jonathan. We were together for 9 years, and he passed away suddenly in 2013. And for a long time, I was overcome with grief, and I felt the need to express that somehow artistically. So both those elements lead the story of Crippled. It's very personal. It is a character that represents me, and I'm very proud of it. And I think, if anything, it's given me the opportunity to prove that, along with expressing yourself, art and creating and healing as well.
Mm.
I'm talking like a real flighty artist now, but it's true.
There are a couple of things here. First, I think the title was smart in the sense that it's going to get you a lot of attention and get people talking about the play. But second, you're using this, as I did when I wrote a book about myself, to work out some things for yourself. Deep feelings that you're working out there on stage, correct?
Exactly, and you want to share that. I mean, as you know, it's one thing to live it yourself, and you can drive yourself crazy just thinking about it yourself, and it's sort of it's a nice outlet, and it's a creative outlet, and but it's genuine, truthful sharing, and we did a small sort of workshop performance of Crippled at the Fundy Fringe Festival in St. John, New Brunswick. And I still called it a work in progress. And I got so many people coming up after talking to me about how well I represented what it's like to live personally with a disability.
And I should add, you're the actor on stage in this as well.
I am, yes, yeah. It's me and one other character, basically. And so it's a lot of time to get into those personal relationships.
How many acts?
It's all one act. The play runs about, I would say, an hour and 20 minutes. And it's a constant storytell. It's really delving into a new type of theater for me as well. It's what we call black box theater, where it doesn't necessarily take place in just one, simple setting like a kitchen. It sort of takes the viewer at different time periods and different locations in a unique way, which I'm really excited about as well.
So it must have been difficult for you as you were sitting down. You wrote this yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Did you use a computer? And how difficult was it to learn how to write a play? I mean, I think a lot of us would like to, but many people can't.
It was a while since I've written. I wrote a couple of plays back in the early 2000s, but this was my first big project one, and I got to thank the Canada Council for the Arts. I applied for a grant, and so they gave me the grant that I could actually financially devote a year or two developing.
Where the grant came from?
The Canada Council for the Arts.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
which they're doing a great job with putting an emphasis on
You
disability.
got to get a plug here for the play. When does it open? Where does it open?
Crippled opens, its official premiere is February 7th to the 11th in St. John's, Newfoundland at the LSPU Hall. And I hope you can come.
I'd love to come. We're going to take another break here very quickly, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about diversity in the arts as well as
Coming up after the break.
Maybe a play with a disabled character or a disabled actor, and immediately I would say 80% of audiences will think, well, that's a disabled play, that's not for me.
More from Challenges and Change with Craig Oliver after the break. And now, back to Challenges and Change with Craig Oliver.
My guest is Paul David Power, actor, playwright, whose play Crippled will soon be on stage in Newfoundland. So, Paul, do you think there's enough support, or is there any support anywhere for performing arts in Canada with financial support for people who've got disabilities?
There is support out there. I think it's growing. I just finished, the one-year project with the National Arts Centre, and they were looking at disability in the arts and did a whole assessment about that across Canada. In my research, the pockets seem to be out west in British Columbia and Ontario. It's mostly where you see it, where there's companies dedicated to that form. My focus also is the Atlantic region. I'm from Newfoundland. I do a lot of touring around the Atlantic provinces. I say there's much less here. On a national scale, the Canada Council for the Arts has promised more focus on disability arts and funding for disability arts. And I hope to see more. I'm in the middle of doing an application right now, so I'll let you know.
Good. Is the problem one of lack of entrepreneurship, lack of patrons, or is it the audience itself that's the problem?
I think it's all of it. I think it's a connotation when you see what they're terming a disabled play. So it's marketing that, and maybe a play with a disabled character or a disabled actor, and immediately I would say 80% of audiences will think that, well, that's a disabled play, that's not for me, or I'm not interested in seeing that tonight. Instead of considering maybe it's just an entertaining story or a good story. And people aren't always going by the quality of the story or the quality of the performance, but more about the physical component of if it's disability.
Do you think we've reached a stage, or will we ever, where people with disabilities, people of color, women also, are going to have an equal shot, the kind of roles they need, all of that?
I think we're headed towards that direction. I always equate the disability movement right now to the GLBTQ movement probably like 20 years ago, which is still not perfect, but it's much more common, and we just don't just see that stereotypical gay character anymore in shows. I'm hoping in 20 years that'll be the same for the disability movement. Whether that happens, I don't know.
Now, are you going to go ahead and write other plays? Is that the way you think you want to go with your career? If this play is a success, or even if it's not, you got to keep trying.
That's right. Yeah. This is my play. I guess my delving back into the theater world professionally. I'd like to start. I am working on a couple of Newfoundland historical plays that has nothing to do with disability, and I don't want to be in them either. I just want to write them. So, I hope to branch out. And just because I'm a disabled artist does not mean all my work has to be that disability.
So your whole purpose is really to be seen for who you are, not to be seen for your disability, right? To the degree that's possible?
I think so, especially with Crippled. I know people come up to me after and you forget about it. A few scenes into it, if you have a truthful story, a good performance, a good story, people forget about it. It's just getting those people in to see it. It's the marketing challenge.
How important is the community, the diversity community, and that connection for you to creating what you're trying to do?
It's beyond important. I think I've come this far, especially with Crippled, because I've been given the opportunities to meet so many of the people in the community through the National Arts Center and Canada Council. I've been able to meet so many different artists with different disabilities. And, biggest thing I've learned is, I'm only an expert on my disability. And I've learned so much from deaf artists.
How do you feel about actors who are able-bodied and who play people with disabilities? Remember the famous Raymond Burr on Ironsides in a wheelchair, and there are many other examples of this. Should actors who are able-bodied be playing disability roles?
It's a hard issue. Personally, my knee-jerk reaction is no. And the more research I do and the more communities I meet, there's beyond hundreds of disabled actors out there trying to make it just as much as other actors. And I think if we take more effort, we would find that it hurts me to see an actor on crutches who's never lived it. I think as a director or a casting agent, you should put that effort in, because you never know what a bigger depth they can bring to the role.
On the other hand, even though Raymond Burr was able-bodied, there he was playing a really good detective in a wheelchair, and that might have helped change perceptions about people in wheelchairs. Like, look, this guy's capable of doing that. So there was some value there too, wasn't there?
True. Yes, I think there just should be diversity in providing casting and audition opportunities. I think a project should always go with who's the best actor, whether that's someone with a disability or without a disability. But right now we are not seeing, if a movie is filming about someone in a wheelchair, I doubt we're seeing a lot of effort of having, the cattle call of 500 actors in wheelchairs come into for the audition process.
When I think of history is full of people who were disabled, who most people don't even think of as disabled because they were judged by what they succeeded and achieved in doing. Franklin Roosevelt, Queen Victoria, Napoleon, midget of a guy. So there is something there, isn't there?
I think so. I mean, I don't think anybody should be heralded because they have a disability, right? I think it should be like anybody else, what they do in their life, or what they're talented at, or what they accomplish for themselves or for other people.
So look, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, Paul, and I'm really wishing you the best for the play. I hope it's a great success. It sounds like it's pretty strong stuff.
Can I plug my website? It's
Go ahead.
Crippled.ca. You can learn more online. Crippled.ca.
Paul, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Philosophically, our guest has made a significant statement. Take me as I am, for myself. I am not my disability. In Halifax, I'm Craig Oliver for Challenges and Change.
Host Craig Oliver, producer Anne-Marie Bergeron, director Willie Prustel, camera John Trudell, Dave Alveston, audio Chuck Calder, integrated described video specialist Emily Harding, editor Andrew Antonello, audio post Achira Corinde, Bruce McClarion, Mark Phoenix, Santiago Moffat, unit managers Karen McGee, Ryan Delahanty, production supervisor Jennifer Johnson, director production AMI TV Karen I. Special thanks Halifax Marriott Harborfront, director programming AMI TV Brian Perdue, Vice President Programming and Production John Melville, President and CEO David Arrington, copyright 2017, Accessible Media Incorporated.